Namaste. Welcome to the Hindu Parenting Podcast, where we explore timeless wisdom and modern challenges in raising thoughtful and grounded children. Hindu parents today have many roles to play. We need to enable our children to be ambassadors who can articulate the beauty and depth of Hindu philosophy and culture to the world. In today's episode, we focus on storytelling, cinema, identity, and parenting through the lens of the film Chiquita. Joining us is its director, Trivikram Gajulapalli, a filmmaker whose unique work bridges two different cultures. Trivikram Gajulapalli is a US based filmmaker and purpose driven entrepreneur. He has written, directed, and produced feature films and award winning shorts. He sees immense potential in cross cultural Indic cinema, a vision reflected in his latest film, Chiquita. Chiquita is the story of an American biker who encounters the Devi in a mysterious way. It is currently streaming on Amazon Prime and YouTube. As the founder of Veena Vedika, he champions authentic storytelling and is guided by the principles of dharma and karma. Welcome, Trivikram Garu. It's wonderful to have you here.
Namaste, Rekhaji and Shaliniji. I'm truly humbled to be featured on this podcast because I know how busy the Hindu parenting team is, constantly brainstorming how to engage parents, how to engage kids, how to make them feel confident about their values, and how to make them worthy inheritors of this ancient wisdom. Doing this alongside your busy personal and professional lives is no joke. So thank you for doing this, and I'm really enjoying. I'm sure I'm going to enjoy this talk.
Yeah, thank you, and it's a delight to have you today. So to begin, what inspired Chiquita? Was there a personal experience or an idea that sparked this story?
So I'll take the I'll take the experience part first. So Chiquita is not based on my experiences. Rather, Chiquita is my experience. By that I mean my understanding and maturity about the concepts like the mystical experiences and surrender were very limited before I made Chiquita. And with that level of exposure to these concepts, I could never imagine writing a story like Chiquita. So I basically learned and experienced a lot of these concepts while making it. It started off as a flash, like an American, not American, but a Westerner encountering Devi on a dark, deserted night. And it got me so excited. And then it evolved into a story that I fell in love with. So yeah, that's how Chiquita happened.
Namaste, Trivikram Garu. Happy to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
To continue, why did you choose the name Chiquita for the film? It is a Spanish word, right? So for a movie on Indian, probably philosophy, aesthetics, gods, or ideas, why did you choose a Spanish name?
So as the story evolved, I felt like the Devi form that appears for a Westerner who has no initiation, no inclination, must not be a ferocious form, but must be something very welcoming and innocent. I thought that will make more sense because he's a beginner. He's not even having an intention to get initiated. So that's exactly how the Bala Tripura Sundari Devi is. But this guy is not a seeker like we discussed. So he has no idea what Devi is, Devi's forms are. Forget about Hinduism and India. So this is a completely unexpected experience for him. Now, with Texas being a border state with Mexico and some interesting similarities between Mexican and Indian cultures, the most natural thing that he could have imagined is that maybe she's crossing over from Mexico, which is a very natural thing in Texas, but people do cross over the border and come into US. And the word used to address a little girl in Spanish is Chiquita. So I just felt that it was perfect. I mean, it has so many things bringing together. It has that cross-cultural element. It also highlights the fact that this guy has zero idea of what he's experiencing. and it's very native, right? So I thought Chiquita is a very good title.
Yeah, it is really an apt title, a beautiful introduction for somebody who's watching these sort of things for the first time
Yeah.
and trying to figure out what Eastern philosophy is all about, and specifically what is Hinduism.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful entry, I think.
Yes.
The main character in the movie, the biker from Texas, he talks about finding himself on a dark country road. He's driving down and he's talking about finding himself when he recounts this incident. And there is also this theme running through the movie that talks about asking questions. And the main character, he also talks about filling his granddaughter's head with questions. So I like this theme of questioning because I think as seekers, that's what we Hindus are. And I've also noticed that many intellectuals from the West, they're scientists, they all approach Hinduism eventually when they start asking questions, and when you want to know who you are, hey, I mean, this is the path. Considering that most of these introductions to Hinduism happen through Vedanta,
Yes.
or through organizations like ISKCON.
Yes.
I'm finding your approach very unique, to focus on the divine feminine, a concept that is, I would think, very alien to the West in general.
Yeah.
So, would you like to tell us why you chose this path?
Yeah, this is very true and a very interesting question about the questions. So, yes, many Western seekers are initiated through their gurus. Like in the 60s and 70s, I mean, starting from Swami Vivekananda, a lot of people have been interacting with these gurus, and these gurus travel to US. So, mostly they were introduced to yoga, of course, Vedanta, and then ISKCON happened. And there is some Shiva devotion because a lot of them go to all the northern spiritual centers close to Himalayas. And then there are some Hanuman devotees as well. But when it comes to Devi Upasakas, we don't hear a lot of names. There are a lot of people, but we don't hear them. We are not very familiar with those names. And it's interesting because even during the script discussions, one of the script reviewers, he suggested that why don't you consider Krishna instead of Devi, because a lot of Westerners are actually familiar with Krishna, so film might get wider audience. But I felt like I should stick to what has truly inspired me, because and it has evolved as a great story. I didn't want to change it, so I went with Devi. However, even in case of Devi, a lot of these organizations and gurus, they all celebrate Devi Navaratri. They sing Kali, the chanting, not all that. In case of organizations like Ramakrishna Math or Vedanta Society, there is this program called Kanya Puja or Kumari Puja. I mean, they also do this Kanya Puja or Kumari Puja, which is done as part of the Navaratris, where again the whom they worship is the little girls who are less than 10 years old. So that is also like the Bala's concept that we are talking about. So, and coming to the other religions, they have this concept of divine feminine, but not at this depth and prominence. It's probably one figure and their qualities. But in our case, it's about Prakriti, Purusha, the manifestation, Shakti tradition, and different forms of Devi, different qualities of Devi. All these are explored at very depth, and I think that has drawn many Western seekers to it.
Yeah, so I think that was a very nice exposition on how you came upon the idea of using the Devi as your protagonist, basically. And you have some very interesting characters in the movie. To mention some of them, the biker is one, the girl Freya is another, the biker's grown-up daughter and her pastor husband. They are some really interesting characters with lots of nuances that you have brought into the movie. So, were these characters based on your observation of the Americans around you? Because you were getting mainly Americans to
Yes.
act in this very Indian idea rooted film, So, how did you manage that?
Yeah. So the the filmmaking part of it and the story. So I wanted to make a cross cultural film, and I wanted to find a natural bridge. I didn't want to, for example, a lot of movies are like you take Indians and put them in the context of US, and you try to show them as cops and all. It doesn't gel well. It's not a very acceptable or easily consumable idea. At the same time, I cannot bring Westerners and make them do things that Indians do. So I wanted to see where this junction exactly is. I didn't want to do another film where Indians come to US and they have this cultural shock, that kind of cross cultural film. I wanted to do something deep and meaningful. So I thought the whole journey of gurus from India to US is a very interesting episode in this history. Similarly, the journey of all the Westerners who were seeking something beyond the true meaning of life or the higher purpose in life, they're traveling all the way to India and many other countries. That phase was the turning point, and that's the basis I always had in my mind for when I thought about cross cultural stories. So yes, we do see such characters here in US, and we can also read the stories of Western Hindus that reflect similar traits. Some parts of the characters are definitely from my background in India, especially with the family values and human relationships, and even a little bit of aggressive evangelism, which I have noticed is quite common regardless of which country we are from. And Texas being more conservative state, it even gels well because some of these emotions are very similar. So yeah, for these reasons, I thought having the stories set up in Texas and all these concepts that we just spoke about, like it being a border state, it's a true cross cultural movie. Yeah, that's how these characters evolved.
Yeah, I think that worked very well too because it gave it a very different perspective because it was based on the experiences of American Hindus. We know Indian Hindus or we know people of Indian descent,
Yes.
and we don't, and also having the American born people as your actors, I think that had a very different feel to it too.
Yeah.
And it must have been hard for the actual actors to understand what to do because uh, I assume that they were not Hindus. They were not the American Hindus that they were portraying,
No,
right?
no. Yeah.
So how was it? Because the way you explained to these actors, I'm
Yeah.
sure there are things from that we as parents could learn how to approach, especially when you are in the diaspora. And
Yeah.
very often today, even in India, how do you explain, our philosophy and how do you uh, bring out its attractiveness because it's inherently so attractive. And so,
Yeah.
how do you explain this to people who have absolutely no idea? I think that is the reason that I'm inspired to even do this podcast because
Okay.
I think you've hit upon something that I don't see anyone else doing.
So yeah, thank you for that. But one advantage I had is the actors. These actors are very professional. So if they don't see potential, I mean, let's just talk about the filmmaking aspect and then the story and the depth of the story that they could understand. So actors are very professional and they sign up if they see potential in their character. Otherwise they might opt out. And even if they have some kind of serious objections, which one or two of them had, they prefer to opt out. But otherwise they put a lot of effort into understanding the context. They make suggestions, they ask questions, they get involved, they actually do their homework and do their best. And once they are on board, there is no more discussion. They give you full freedom. There is no friction, there is no argument, there is no offense, nothing like that. Because we had people from various kinds of backgrounds on the set, very religious, not religious at all, somewhere in between, all of them. And especially in the crew and also in the cast. And you would be surprised if I say that the Charles character, right, the guy who is the motorbiker. So I was looking for a guy with long beard because that's how the bikers are. They're very rugged and 6'4" and all. bulky and all that. And this we were shooting in the month of November, and this actor, when I met him, he was so nice. When he was shooting, he was staring at Devi's picture, and he was so connected, and he was so emotional, and he also practiced that Sanskrit uh, prayer that he chants in the movie. He did his homework. He said how he's trying to do that and all that. But the reason he was actually growing beard is because he was going to play Santa Claus for the Christmas celebrations in many of the churches.
Okay.
So they are very professional. They don't bring in their personal. I mean, if they have so much problem, they would opt out. But once they are in, they are completely in. That's the advantage I had, that openness in mind to explore something new and see the other's perspective. A lot of these people definitely value that other's perspective. Sure, there could be some sections who are not very comfortable with that, but they in fact told me what words to use so that we don't get into problem. For example, when we are talking about people crossing over the border, I could say illegals, but I could be polite by saying immigrants, things like this, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
similarly, organizations like Hindu American Foundation and others, they have some, like I reviewed the script with one of my uh, contacts who was part of Hindu HAF and other organizations. They told me instead of using idols, you can use icons. So
Yes.
we made some minor corrections here and there like that, and actors were very much part of these corrections, whether they are related to Hinduism or not. But coming to the concept of the film itself, to expect a Westerner who has no idea what Devi and Hinduism is to understand so much depth from just one scene or one short film is way too much. I understood this much later in the process because I've been asking them, hey, what do you guys think? Hey, will you interact like this? Will you react like this? Is it good? Because we also are crippled because of the language. English is not our
Right.
native language, and we don't know the culture fully. We don't know the whole history. So they were
Yes.
bringing in those small elements. One of the actors, even the guy who acted as evangelist, he himself was talking to his mom and finding out whether this whole sequence is believable. I don't know if he exactly discussed with his mom, but he was getting me inputs like, "Hey, this is not how it works," and I took some liberties. My background is different. I came from India. I know how it works there. So my goal was not to get to the exact facts of all these religions, but to expose something which is not the right thing to do. So we had such discussions and script reading things. So for them, to cut it short, for them this story was about a biker who got introduced to something and he wanted to lead a certain kind of life, and he should have the freedom to lead that life. No one else should say no. No one has. It's none of their business, none of the family's business to force something else on him. That's the level at which they understand this story. Anything beyond that is a bonus for us. That's how an average American would probably see this story.
Yeah, I think that
Process.
that came across the positivity with which everybody approached it. It came across in the work, and that's also why I liked it so much, because there's nothing forced. It seems to have evolved naturally, right from the expressions to the
Yeah.
situations. So there's a lot I think that Indians in India, the Hindus of India, could also learn from this, because it does showcase both cultures at their best. The
Yes.
openness and the freedom in the US is absolutely beautiful, and so is the Hindu culture, which is, I mean, there's no equivalent to the philosophy and the sheer beauty of what we have also. So it's a beautiful amalgamation, and you've done it in a very inspiring and positive way, which is
Yes,
what
ma'am.
we should be looking at.
Yeah. So very interesting that you talked about the work culture of the Westerners and how they adapt when they hear a story and how they buy into the thing, into the idea.
Yeah.
So uh, the story itself, the film story itself, is based on real stories of Western Hindus.
Yeah.
So, can you give us a glimpse of one such story that can inspire Hindus or born, and those who are generally born Hindus, to become more sincere practitioners of their faith? Because that's something that's going down very quickly, and not anybody's fault. It's just in one way it is a feature of the times. But is there something that we can learn to make born Hindus more serious about their faith?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think, like you mentioned, the context is very important. Um, for example, one of the inspirations for my film was the story of Baba Ramdas, who is also known as Richard Alpert, who started the Be Here Now movement in US. Anyone can go to YouTube and listen to him share his experiences. It might make you think that he's either crazy or something extraordinary. Like, he was a professor at Harvard, and then he was experimenting with the psychedelics, and then whatever happens, they fire him. He comes to India, finds Neem Karoli Baba. Then he goes back to spread the awareness about his teachings to many influential people. I mean, for example, there is a nowadays we are hearing about bhajan clubbing, right? But these guys run not exactly Be Here Now movement uh, organization, but there are other organizations who run a dedicated music festival for kirtans. They start with the morning prayers. They start with Hanuman Chalisa. The whole day is about kirtans. So all Westerners, not even Hindus. We don't see many Indians there. So the context here is they truly came to understand the purpose of their lives and understand something which was beyond the regular life. And these gurus were really opening the doors for them. But whereas we take a lot of things for granted. And in the context of the vigor of the institutional and the religious rigor, there are monks in the Kavi Adinam in Hawaii who follow Sri Lankan Saivism. They run a proper temple. They very carefully and meticulously select their successors, and none of them are born into Hindu families. They run a publication called Hinduism Today, which gets published in like 80 countries. So there are many others who dedicate themselves to these organizations. The main reason, we have been discussing, is they have been genuine seekers, especially in the 60s and 70s, and they wanted a higher purpose. Maybe we don't see them like everywhere because they're not about spreading it; they're about seeking it. That's the difference. So we may not know a lot of them, but they are silently seeking the truth. Yeah, to answer your question, yes, I think we should take that. We should understand the value of all these things, and not take those for granted, and use them for our inner growth.
Yeah, sure. There are a lot of, I hate to call things lessons because that makes it kind of preachy, but there are lots of things that we can take away from, the things you're saying, your insights, as well as the movie itself. This question of questions and freedom, these two, seeking is all about questions, and freedom to allow anybody to go ahead with in their chosen path. So that is kind of typically unique to our civilization, actually. But right now, the strange amalgam that we have in India, where conversions, proselytization takes place, and the Hindus themselves are not given the freedom to follow that path that they're born into. Very often, when families convert, it becomes coercion. So I think that angle also can be taken from the movie, and there's just too many things for us to get into deeply. But one scene stands out for me, where you kind of merged the two little girls, the child playing the granddaughter of Charles, the biker, and the goddess Bala Tripura Sundari herself. So, did you want to convey anything specific when you did that in the movie?
So, as a filmmaker, I was equally happy about this coincidence because I didn't originally write the granddaughter's character to merge with Devi's character. But during the sequence where this granddaughter asks intriguing questions, which seem to answer the questions of Charles, the long pending questions that he had, like when she says, "How do we read something that appears to be right there, but it is actually not?" Or when she says, "Grandpa, I think you should come and stay with us. That is the right thing to do." So, if you observe that scene, we are basically connecting and answering his questions back to the valley where he's trying to reach Devi, but he's unable to actually reach her. The more he tries, the further the Devi goes. And when he's interacting with his daughter, he says that, "Hey, all this may not make any sense to you. And no one told me, Charles, this is the right thing to do." These are the two important questions on his side. And granddaughter is exactly asking the same things without even knowing this whole thing, right? She's asking, how do you read something that appears to be right there, but it is actually not? And she's also telling, hey, this is the right thing to do. So I felt like Charles should actually see Devi in that moment in the granddaughter, because we don't know how these manifestations happen. He encountered Devi a decade back, and this girl is also coming back to him after a decade, approximately. So it's almost like Devi coming back to him and telling him what to do next. So I felt that very interesting. So I thought his vision should be like he's actually talking to Devi. And also when she's leaving at the end of the scene, he calls her Chiquita and says that, "Thank you for coming to see me, Chiquita, especially after all this time." So it's like a proper conclusion. The family came, it relieved him of all the burden and the unanswered questions and all those, and now he feels free. So it was very warm and cool thing to end by calling her Chiquita when she's leaving. That's how I felt about it. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that feminine aspect has come out spectacularly, I should say, and there is one line that the protagonist says, where he says, "I have now found the balance in me. What was missing in me previously was the feminine aspects of compassion, etc." And he goes on to say other things. So I think as Hindus, we are fairly comfortable with the idea of the divine feminine. We are used to the concept of Ardhanarishwara, and it's all. Even if we don't practice it or something, we've always, all of us have heard of it. We've seen iconography, all that. So for a Westerner, that probably is. Very different thing. Can you share a little bit more about this line that the protagonist says and what it did for the protagonist? How did you want to convey it, portray it? Yeah, if you could go in on to that.
Okay. So the general worldly understanding of masculinity is that one needs to be rough, aggressive, forceful, and all that. And he was all that. But philosophically, it's not the true masculinity. It's actually an imbalance of nature triggered by lower impulses. So the femininity that we are referring to here is about the qualities he truly lacked, like the compassion, contentment, and similar qualities. So that aspect of femininity is what we are referring to here. Maybe his wife was bringing in those qualities and balance in the family, but now that she's gone and he has had this experience after the divorce, and then he's reading about yoga and Devi and all these philosophies, so he finds this balance within himself, especially when the daughter says that, "Hey, you didn't move on. If you had moved on, you would have found another lady, another woman." He says, "No, I don't need, because these qualities of femininity are within myself, and I'm now feeling very complete. I don't need another person to bring these this dimension to me. So we couldn't establish very well, but right next to him will be the photo of Ardhanarishwara. We could not properly establish it in the movie, but like you mentioned, that's the symbol of a perfect human being where there is proper balance between masculinity and femininity. So that's what he when he starts, he says that I was as wild as a Mustang on the open range. So he was very wild, but now he's a very complete and content person, and he exactly understood why he needs all those qualities. Yeah, that's what he means.
Another significant moment in the movie that I distinctly remember is when when they're going back home,
Yeah.
the daughter tells her pastor husband, who is disapproving of Charles, the
Yes.
biker, and she says, at least he's following his own path and not trying to evangelize or, to force somebody to change. So I thought that kind of, it captures what Hinduism is all about, and it captures
Exactly.
the openness that is there in a large part of Western society today.
Yes.
So that's the part, these two things, how beautifully they come together. And unfortunately, the version of the religions, so-called religions, I'm not talking about Sanatana Dharma, but organized religions that have come to India, that openness has not been carried. It's the
Mm.
openness that's missing. And in some sections of Hindu society today, that openness is also missing. So I think there's a lot for India to see and learn from this movie, though the actors are all American and the setting is American. But I think a thinking Hindu Indian will find a lot in this movie to reflect and think about, okay, we were so and so, where have we come, and what can we do going forward. So um, just an observation that I had. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel blessed that I could make a movie like this. Without the grace of Devi, it could not have happened, is what I felt. Because when I started making it, I wasn't sure that it will turn out this way. Like I said, this movie has taught me the craft of surrender, which I would have not
mm,
understood otherwise. This particular line was very important in the movie for two reasons. One, it is a natural conflict in the families, in the Western families, when one of them is seeking something different. So a lot of people actually acknowledged and mentioned this about this one line. But at the same time, there were many who said you should probably not get into such details because it gets uncomfortable. It's this
mhm.
the rest of it is very beautiful. Why should we rough? I mean, why should we like have friction? But then I stuck to my instincts, and luckily everything worked. This dialogue was important because if we do not have this dialogue, then people could easily brush off this movie saying that, hey, you are talking against aggressive evangelism, but in a way, you are also doing the same thing. Like Charles is doing the same thing to someone else. Like what
Mhm,
the
mhm.
guy is trying to, like the son in law is trying to do to Charles. That's why we said that no, that's not what we want to say. We are okay with whoever whatever they want to be, but just don't force it on us. And we establish it in multiple places. He tells the same point in dialogue with Freya when he talks about the previous night. He says that I shouldn't have thrown it away, it has some meaning for my daughter.
Yes.
And then he participates in the dining table prayer when they pray for the first day. But in the second day, that son-in-law becomes very uncomfortable, and again he uh, acknowledges that when he talks to the daughter in the night, saying that, hey, this may not make any sense to you, but this is what I'm feeling. So we tried bringing in that mutual respect in as many
Mhm.
places as possible. In spite of that, this dialogue will underline that Charles is in no mood to evangelize. He's not that kind. To draw that distinction, this line is very important.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I do remember when the other part that you were referring to, when Charles said, maybe I shouldn't have thrown it away. So
Yeah.
I think these are all very important, and these are what we believe in, right? I mean, we want to be
Yes.
respectful. We want
Yes.
to be respectful. That's a huge part of Indianness and Hinduness.
That
We
comes so
want to be
naturally. We
respectful.
just can't overcome that. So
Yes,
unless
and
something extreme has happened, we wouldn't. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm happy that these two conversations bring that out, because that's who we are. We are respectful, and we are trying to seek an understanding and mutual respect. So that's beautiful. It came out well. Um, so for parents who are watching Chiquita with their children,
Yeah.
what conversations would you encourage them to have after watching the movie?
So, like we have been discussing throughout this discussion, and also as the film says, I think the first thing is they should, a parent should encourage kids to ask questions. Of course, we need to have the answers ready, but
Mm-hmm.
that solves a lot of problems. Kids are naturally curious. They will ask a lot of questions. If they are asking us questions, they would also ask questions to someone else who's approaching them with some kind of uh, bad agenda, right? So regarding Chiquita, if kids are outside India, I think this film will help them remove any identity crisis or the fear of different they might naturally have because of the circumstances they live in. So it shows them that even Westerners can appreciate Hinduism and there is nothing to be afraid of to be what you are. Just a subtle confidence to them. But if for those in India, obviously they know all these things, they're not afraid of it. But there is a lot of social baggage and cultural baggage, self doubt because of all the last few generations. We have been stuck in this survival mode. So they could also have this, and unfortunately only when the outsider points out the value of something we have, we realize it more. So that way, I think, like you were mentioning, we should realize the value of these philosophies and probably go very deep and make best of it, just like the Westerners. um, uh, yeah, topics in these lines can be explored with kids, like why is it important, why are we doing these things. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you've given the thing for you've given some ideas for Hindu parents. I'm sure this must have been a journey for you also,
Yes.
right? Anything that one does with some sort of involvement or investment in that, you
Yeah.
tend to also grow or get more insights, and definitely I think that is part of what makes that worthwhile for you.
Yes.
So, were there moments during the making of this film that changed your own perspective on anything, maybe children, family, Hindu ideas, Western people, whatever it may be?
So, like I just mentioned, I would not have understood the mysterious angle, or like, yes, we question, but at a point, the questions make no sense, and we run out of questions, and we feel like there's no point in asking questions. That phase I have never thought of. But while writing the conclusion of Charles, when he says, surrender unconditionally, that's when I also realized that, okay, probably this is how we surrender. Before that, I would not have understood that concept. And like you mentioned, every movie uh, is coming out of a lot of inspiration from something. Previously, I made a film called Manasu in Telugu. It's a short film, and that also happened like Chiquita, with just one visual. I was going to office and I saw an old man praying to Vinayaka on a roadside small temple. And by the time I go to office, I have this full story, and that turned out to be a fantastic project for me. And I sometimes wonder, where are these ideas coming from? So all these things put together, I'm definitely growing as a person, not just spiritually, but even in the outside world. Through my, when you go deep and involve or immerse yourself completely in one thing, you learn a lot of other things as bonus, even though that's not your intention. Yeah. So with kids, I mean, I'm learning it from my own kid. With elders, I'm always biased or inclined to. I somehow have very, what do you call, like, a bias towards the elderly people. I tend to support them in no matter what. So yeah, not just with this Chiquita, but with every film, I learned things like this. Yeah.
You mentioned the Telugu film Manasu.
Yeah.
So we'd like to know what your body of work is, what kind of movies you have made, what are you planning to do in the future, and is your work predominantly in Telugu or English, and how do we view your films?
Yeah, thank you. So Veena Vedika is the banner that we have started. It's an enthusiast group of filmmakers. We have started it way back, a decade back, and we have been making short films and then some documentaries and things like this. Um, I go with drama. Mostly, it's about, for example, Manasi. It's about your dharma and karma at a high level. But Manasu was about exploring the fag end of someone's life, especially after his wife dies. And then I made a feature film called Karam Dosa, which talks about like doing more, talking less, and breaking down your big goals into smaller chunks. And instead of just talking, a lot of people just talk and talk. So I pick such simple dramas, but now that I'm unable to travel to India, I wanted to make it in English. So now going forward, it will be in English, and they will be mostly cross-cultural films. This time it was a simple drama, and it is very difficult to get the attention of people with a simple drama. So I might be picking up a genre that is much more widely enjoyable for people, for the audience, but it will still have the deep Indian connection part. That's what I think will make my stories more unique when compared to stories of similar genre. Yeah. So yeah, everything can be seen on my YouTube channel, Veena Vedika. And
And
you can learn more
we'll have
about me on the website, veenavedika.com. You can see all
we,
my.
okay, so we'll have a link to that
Sure.
on the when we publish this podcast. Um, do you have any message for the Hindu youth of today, the ones who are growing up in India as well as those in the diaspora? Because I think one of the questions that youth always grapples with is this question of identity. Who am I? And the answers are not always satisfactory because for the Hindu youth, we have not really given them answers to a lot of questions that they have. So they have to do their own individual seeking. And some of them find a path, some of them get lost. So with somebody like you to, guide them, you've been through that experience, and also one is of course through your movies, but if you had to directly address Hindu youth today, the ones in India and the diaspora, what would you tell them?
So I would give them confidence that a lot of work has already been done. Thanks to the organizations like Hindu Parenting, a lot of people have been doing fantastic work in this space. Now the world knows about your faith, they understand your faith, and with social media, they are learning every day. The only thing that needs to be done is to present yourself and express yourself confidently. In whatever way you are comfortable, live by these values and show how good they can make you. You will automatically embraced wherever you go. I mean, in majority of the cases, there is always some outliers, and based on your swabhava, you can either confront them or you can explain it to them, or whatever you are comfortable, or just prove them wrong with your actions. Whatever, you don't have to force yourself to do anything, but start seeking. Yeah, there is no substitute to your own experience. So at least you can get started, and you don't have to be feeling like alienated or totally different, because the world is much more accepting than we think. So just take one step, and then I'm sure you will find a lot of people in your group. So before I forget, I wanted to mention this, that I know, Rekaji, you don't watch many movies, but the review you wrote about Baramulla movie on your website is one of the most refreshing reviews I have ever read. You are rating the film based on Navarasas, which is very unique. I don't think anyone else has done that. You were talking about Auchitya and all the Indian aesthetics, which I believe you teach. I genuinely hope that someone from the film reviewer circle take inspiration from this and incorporate in their reviews. That would be awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. This has been a deeply enriching conversation. Thank you, Trivikram Garu, for your time and for sharing your insights with us. We wish you great success in all your future endeavors.
Thank you so much, Rekha ji, Shalini ji, and the Hindu parenting team. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the call, this is not easy to do so much work apart from the regular activities that you guys do. So thank you for doing this for us and for the future generations. We owe you a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. To our listeners, hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Do watch Chiquita and all the upcoming works of Trivikram Gajulapalli, a unique voice showing us how to become good ambassadors for our Hindu faith and culture. Visit our website hinduparenting.org for resources to help you in your parenting journey. Subscribe to our newsletters to get all new podcasts and articles, classes for kids and parents directly in your email inbox. Follow us on social media at the handle Hindu Parenting. Until next time, namaste.